Hi, how are you? Test, test, test. Paul, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Councilmember Moore?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, can we turn his volume up? Let's do one more quick test, Councilmember Moore.
Test 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
That's perfect. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Mayor, we're ready
Good?
to begin.
Okay. Okay, I would like to call the regular meeting of the Milton City Council for Monday, October 2nd, 2023 to order. The city strongly recommends that you review tonight's agenda carefully, and if you wish to speak on any item on the agenda, then please bring your comment cards to the clerk as soon as possible. While the Milton rules allow a speaker to turn in their comment card up until the clerk calls the agenda item. Once the agenda item is called, no more comment cards can be accepted. Will the city clerk please call the roll and make general announcements?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be happy to call roll for the October 2nd, 2023 regular council meeting. I would like to remind those in attendance to please silence all cell phones at this time. Those attending the meeting who would like to make a public comment, you are required to complete a public comment card prior to speaking on the item. All speakers will identify themselves with name, address, and organization before beginning your comment. If you are representing an organization, an affidavit is required stating you have the authority to speak on behalf of that organization. Please review tonight's agenda, and if you would like to make a comment, please bring your comment cards to me now. Demonstration of any sort within the chamber is prohibited. Please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, outburst, or dialogue with any person speaking. Anyone in violation will be asked to leave. As I call roll this evening, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Peyton Jamison.
Here.
Councilmember Andrea Veerhoff.
Here.
Councilmember Juliette Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Carol Cookerly.
Here.
Councilmember Jan Jacobus.
Present.
Councilmember Rick Morg.
Here.
And joining us via Zoom is Councilmember Paul Moore.
Here.
Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next is the approval of the meeting agenda. I would like to add an executive session to discuss land acquisition, personnel, and potential litigation. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we accept the agenda as read.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Morg and a second from Councilmember Verhoff to approve the consent agenda as amended. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, next is general public comment. Do we have any public comment?
We do, Mayor.
Okay. The next item is general public comment. Public comment is a time for citizens to share information with the mayor and the city council and to provide input and opinions on any matter that is not scheduled for its own public hearing during today's meeting. Each citizen who chooses to participate in public comment must complete a comment card and submit it to the city clerk prior to the agenda item being called. Please remember, this is not a time to engage the mayor or members of the city council in conversation. When your name is called, please come forward and speak into the microphone stating your name and address for the record. You will have 5 minutes for remarks. The city encourages you to review the agenda, and if you wish to speak, to bring your comment cards to the city clerk right now. If you will please call the first public comment.
Mayor, I invite Debbie Beecham to the podium, please.
My name is Debbie Beecham. I live at 500 Hickory Mill Lane, Milton, 30004. I'm speaking tonight as a citizen, a very concerned citizen. The past few months have been filled with negative election smear. The targets, Councilman Moore and Councilman Morg. Election rigging, election tampering, election interference. Let's look at the facts from the beginning. These two men were allowed to serve on Milton's election feasibility committee. They simply did not just self-appoint and start to work. They were allowed to serve on this committee. 3 weeks ago, I emailed City Council asking why the city charter was not followed and who determined the composition of this committee. I haven't heard from a single one of you from that email. Had city charter been followed to form that committee, there would be no story, no narrative, and I wouldn't be standing before you tonight. City charter calls for 7 members, all Milton residents. It does not allow elected officials to serve on committees. There are exceptions, I know, but why would an exception be made to allow 2 elected officials to serve on an election committee of 6? Is city leadership really this weak, or was this a calculated move? Someone here is responsible other than these 2 men, and they should stand up and take ownership now. On September 6th, Councilman Moore read a letter from the city attorney's office that was sent to the state elections board. That letter exonerated the election committee and its work, but election interference accusations continue. Who is pushing this narrative against these 2 people elected by the citizens of Milton? Who is behind ruining their lives, their legacy, their reputation, and their families? Is it because they oppose development authorities? The media is perpetuating this narrative along with an Alpharetta blogger. This blogger has access to Milton information and the Milton Herald before we do. Just this weekend, he previewed Milton Herald's front page story that was posted online today. On September the 8th, he posted, "I called the mayor upon hearing about the threats to him and his family. He graciously provided me with a redacted police report and the text messages. I ask you, why were death threats posted on a blog during an open police investigation? Is this ethical? How did the blogger know to call you, Mayor Jameson? The blogger says death threats continue as recent as September the 21st. Is it even safe to be in here tonight? I have to ask, is this crisis real or is it manufactured? I ask because last week I obtained text messages between the blogger and the mayor through open records. The blogger states at 10:26 a.m., I did not watch, but I heard from others you made a strong and impassioned case. I believe Milton needs a very public crisis to foster needed debate and ultimately competitive elections to achieve more able representation and leadership on council. So I ask you tonight, who is running our city, our mayor or an Alpharetta blogger? These texts were after the May 1st City Council meeting. This is when the gaslighting begins. Fair fight comes to town. Re-election attacks start on Moore. 2 challengers supporting development authorities come out of the blue. Milton Families First is formed. An election consultant is hired. Personal attacks start on Maury. The Alpharetta blogger begins his series on Milton's election interference. Moore chooses not to seek re-election. I go on and on. In closing, I just want to share. Nancy Pelosi shares the success of her party's playbook. You smear somebody with falsehoods, you merchandise it, you write it. They'll say, oh, it's reported in the press. They have that validation. They believe it. It's called a wrap-up smear. It's a tactic. Is that what's happening here in our own city of Milton? Get a narrative, publish it, people will believe it. I encourage my fellow citizens to recognize for what this is, a smear. Not wrongdoing on behalf of these 2 men, but wrongdoing by others. Exactly who is doing election interference.
Expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. Will you please call the
Mayor,
next
I invite
speaker?
Greg Beecham to the podium,
Excuse me. Who's the next speaker?
please. Greg Beecham.
Okay, thank you.
Craig Beecham, 500 Hickory Mill Lane, Milton. Mayor and City Council, why is no one talking about a development authority other than to say they support one? We have 2 challengers to the City Council race that say they support development authorities. One cannot clearly articulate the reasons why. The other says he supports it for Crabapple, Deerfield, and Birmingham Crossroads. What is left at the Birmingham Crossroads for a development authority to develop other than Birmingham Park, which a few years ago was on the table for athletic fields, and that was defeated. Both candidates claim to protect and preserve the landscape, but both support a development authority. I don't think you can have both. Apparently, they don't understand what they support. So what is a development authority? Well, the development authority is not part of the city. It's not part of the county. It's not a department in the city, it's not a department in the county, and it's not controlled by the city or the county. It's the Development Authority is a separate legal entity, a type of public corporation. Please refer to OCGA section 366221. Is this really in the best interest for the people of Milton, or is it to line the pockets of a select few? Who's driving the Development Authority for Milton? Are there ties to state and federal funding? Is it connected to the federal administration's equity plan? High-density housing, multifamily housing, low-income housing. Add that, you've got additional traffic, MARTA, and then maybe more crime. You'll see overcrowding in public schools, which leads to redistricting. Tell any family with children in the Milton High School District and expect complaints to increase tenfold. It'll also destroy the green space and our charming rural character, by the way, which Milton promotes. Is Milton's current design review board, planning commission, and board of zoning appeals not enough to manage responsible growth? If you create a development authority, you hand over the reins to outside developers, where you, our elected officials, our committee appointees, and we, the citizens, won't have a voice. A development authority can bypass all current zoning laws. Development authority thinking. Build it and they will come. Major projects are a catalyst for growth. Major projects create jobs. Finance major projects with debt to speculate on future growth. Future maintenance liabilities are a responsibility of future generations. A strong city thinking is get them to come, you can afford to build it. Major projects are made possible by productive growth. Jobs are a natural byproduct of a productive place. Finance major projects only with a secure, stable tax base. A project's only viable when it builds wealth for the future generations, not unfunded obligations. What do we want to be, weak or strong? Do we want to look like Roswell or Alpharetta? Implementing a development authority would do just that. If the mayor and some city council really want a development authority, then it needs to be openly debated. Why not let the citizens decide? Maybe even put it on the ballot. Milton's been a distinguished city within the state, always consistently staying at the top of the list for cities as one of the safest places to live in the state. Do we want to take on long-term liabilities so we can experience growth today? Stability is a requirement. Growth is an option. If you choose urbanization, or if you oppose urbanization, why would you support a development authority? Look at the Alpharetta Development Authority with the goal of fostering commerce and growth within the city of Alpharetta. Their tagline, as a connected city with deep cultural, social, technological, and logistic resources, Alpharetta is setting the standard for what a city life will look like as we move through the connected decade. For what we look like. Why do some think this is what Milton needs? What will a development authority take from us? Our city is in the country, our farmland, our horse farms, our peaceful and tranquil way of life. It will take everything that we moved here to Milton for. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you please call the next speaker?
Mayor, I invite Jill Wright to the podium.
Jill Wright, 110 Hickory Mill Court, Milton. I have lived in Milton for 21 years. What I have witnessed over the past month is deeply concerning. A public comment was made by one citizen at the last council meeting demanding that an elected official who is a candidate in the upcoming election step down due to false allegations of election meddling. Translation, he is asking for a candidate to be removed from the ballot before we, the voters, get a chance to go to the polls. This citizen, Adam Hollingsworth, is the president of Milton Families First, an independent committee formed to influence elections, claiming to be a voice for Milton families. MFF promotes transparency, yet the president appears to have a history of not being transparent. According to the Tampa Bay Times in 2013, he, quote, lied about earning a college degree on his resume with a former employer. And, quote, he was instrumental in accelerating the resignation of officials. The Orange County Democratic Party has a 2013 article titled, quote, "The Adam Hollingsworth Effect, Double Talk, Double Standards, and Academic Fraud." The same article also states, quote, "Hollingsworth has shown he'll keep a lie secret until caught." American Bridge 21st Century in 2014 stated, quote, "News of yet another special interest-driven scandal within the Rick Scott administration broke, this one involving his current chief of staff, Adam Hollingsworth." Could he be using the same tactic here in Milton as the president of Milton Families First? The fact is, Milton Families First does not represent Milton families. Follow the money. Their September 11th campaign contribution disclosure report shows 27 total contributors. The two founders have funded 69% of the committee. Only 16 donors are Milton residents. That's a mere 0.04% of the total Milton community. The remaining are non-Milton donors, including a major developer from Peachtree City, a person from Illinois with development banking ties, and 2 Snellville people with builder ties. It appears these founders are representing their self-interests and those of outside developers. The committee hired an outside communications group called Full Focus Communications, whose website boasts, quote, "We tell dynamic stories, we create powerful narratives, and deliver big wins." Over $9,000 was spent on campaign consulting, website creation, and digital ads texting to oppose Richard Morrig. MFF is actively supporting a slate of candidates with whom they are working to aggressively discredit Councilman Morrig. A big supporter of 2 of these candidates is the owner of Roberts Properties, which builds high-density multifamily housing. Is Milton Families First running the campaigns for this slate, and are they putting the interests of developers above private citizens? Let's call it as it is. Milton Families First is not a true representation of the Milton community. They are funded primarily by the founders and outsiders with developer ties. The committee hired a professional communications group to create a powerful narrative with intent to influence our election. Is demanding the removal of a candidate from the ballot before we, the citizens, can vote their tactic? If yes, then that is election meddling. Council, mayor, and the citizens who are listening, it's time to wake up and dismiss this false narrative created by the Milton Families First Committee. There's no reason to waste any more city resources. We, the citizens of Milton, deserve an honest and fair election without all the shenanigans. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you please call the next
Mayor,
speaker?
I invite Lori DeSantos to the podium, please.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I thought I was going to be able to interact, and I guess we can't. So I didn't know that. So that's why I put in there. I just wanted to know about our tax dollars going to the Milton ambassador.
Can you just please say your address and name for the
Oh,
record?
yeah, I'm sorry. Lori DeSantis, Fieldstone Trail, 30004, Milton.
Okay, thank you.
So I mean, since I can't get you to say where our tax dollars are going for this embassy or ambassador for Milton, and so I
What
guess-
was your question though?
My
'Cause I can-
question is, why is my tax dollars going to something like that? What do they do? What's the cost-effective part to how many there is? What I called someone already and spoke to them, and they told me I needed to talk to a lieutenant. I called him and he never called me back.
Okay, and the organization exactly, because I want to make sure we.
I'm
get-
not an organization, I'm a
But
taxpayer.
where you want the tax, what was your
My
question?
tax dollars going to an ambassador,
Okay.
Milton, and what is that?
Okay,
And what's the cost effectiveness to that and all that kind of stuff? And why are we paying for that? That's
Okay.
what I wanted to know. So, but I didn't know I wasn't going to be able to interact.
well, I'll make
So
sure we get the answer to
I
you.
appreciate that very
Absolutely.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I invite Mary Mayer to the podium, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mary Mayer, 16070 Henderson Road, Milton. So for the record, on December 21st, 2022, Milton City Council voted unanimously to self-run Milton's municipal elections. On April 18th, 2023, City Manager Mr. Steve Krokoff was appointed Superintendent of Elections. On September 7th, 2023, Superintendent of Elections and City Manager Mr. Krokoff surveilled the neighborhood of private Milton citizens who were hosting a perfectly legal meeting. The meeting is the subject of an ongoing investigation into a hacked email. On September 22nd, 2023, an App and Media article entitled Claims of Email Hacking May Spark a Second Investigation, City Manager Mr. Krokoff is quoted as saying, "Several attendees at this event are seasoned poll workers." Krokoff said that the pair had previously contacted city staff to ask if they could work on a campaign. Though it is legal for poll workers to engage in campaign activities outside of their official roles, he said both have since resigned and have been replaced. App and Media goes on to say, but Mr. Krokoff also provided an eyewitness account of the meeting because he went to Crooked Creek himself at the date and time stated in the invitation to observe the subdivision's entrance. As mentioned previously, my professional training, this is Mr. Krokoff, as a police officer is to act on initial concerns as quietly and unobtrusively as possible, as one might not get the chance later. He also said, this was a direct quote in a September 22nd email to the city council, and goes on to say, please don't interpret any of this to be an indictment of the two poll workers. While I don't know them personally, I understand them to be upstanding, civic-minded citizens. I am both saddened and appalled that the city council appears to condone Mr. Krokoff's surveilling of Milton City private citizens, and I'm unclear about the full scope and responsibilities of Mr. Krokoff's job description as both city manager and superintendent of elections. Is he also our city undercover detective? Rather than applaud our citizen volunteers, you have denigrated them, spied on them, and left them open to false innuendos by the press, activist bloggers, and an independent committee. There is nothing about a potential email hack, ongoing investigation, nothing that makes Mr. Krokoff's actions to me, which is surveilling citizens and the silence of this council, acceptable. And I'm questioning his judgment, his jurisdiction, and your oversight. Accident or intentional, it would appear that there is an effort to undermine the integrity of the upcoming election process and procedures through unverified accusations and tie that into a candidate's character and campaign. Dual takedown? May I suggest that the council leave its political mudslingings to the trails? Your efforts to cast dispersions have created concerns about your integrity and your personal vendettas and agendas. Rather than be mobilized and excited about our future, citizens are disenfranchised and disgusted. I want to remind you that you serve at the pleasure of the voting community. Many of us are happy to co-labor and work towards a shared vision. I would expect more of a protective stance toward our citizens and an outward display that your agenda is not of greater importance than the views of the residents of Milton. I have been assured that the integrity of the established election process will succeed and pave the way for the city to continue with paper ballots and the self-running of free and fair elections in the future. That is the will of the people. Thank you for the opportunity to speak my mind and then a little bit more.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Our next speaker.
Mayor, I invite Mr. Kevin Modowney to the podium.
How many more do we have? More do we have?
3.
Okay.
Good evening, Council. Kevin Muldowney, 3325 Kentworth Lane, Milton, Crooked Creek, as Mr. Krokoff. You were there. I'm a private citizen. My wife and I have been proud residents of Milton for 10 years. We're very interested in helping out with the city's effort of running our 2023 municipal election. We wholeheartedly support Councilman Rick Morrig in his re-election bid, so much that we volunteered to open our home for a campaign strategy meeting. This meeting was communicated via text message. Somehow, this was covertly intercepted, inserted into an email, and sent out to council. Milton clearly has a problem with email security. There were council members accusing Rick of meeting with poll workers with nefarious implications. Both the city manager and the city attorney stated that acting as a poll worker and actively supporting a candidate is not in any way a conflict of interest. The city manager has stated that he secretly went to our address on the night of our campaign strategy meeting to do some detective work. Mr. Krokoff, you would have been welcomed if you had knocked on our door. You could have had some refreshments and seen how a campaign strategy meeting actually runs. In all seriousness, let me get this right. Council is elected to represent the citizens and make city policy. City staff are there to carry out that very same established policy. Why in God's name is the city manager spying on a city councilman? This just reeks of impropriety. Another glaring question is, why isn't council doing anything about this abhorrent behavior? It sounds like the investigation that has been commissioned should be focusing on our city manager, not Councilman Morig. Sadly, my wife's name, my name, and our reputation has been sullied. To make sure we didn't negatively impact Councilman Morig's campaign, we decided to withdraw from working the election and concentrate our efforts on Rick's reelection bid. The city has lost 2 experienced poll workers. With the help of the media, you seem to be trying to destroy Councilman Morig's reputation and tank his reelection bid. This is really sad. City staff should be concentrating their efforts on actual city business, namely making absolutely sure our municipal election goes off without a hitch. I have spoken to constituents. There is confusion out there as to where voters go to cast their votes on election day. You need to clearly and thoroughly communicate this information. Milton needs to get to the bottom of their email electronic security breach and get their house in order, rather than trying to create a controversy that doesn't exist. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
And Pike, I invite you to the podium.
Thank you. My name is Dan Pike. I live at 15415 Trayman Manor View, Milton. Didn't want to jump into this circus that you all are making our city, but I have no choice. A concern of a growing group of residents has been how members of the city staff and this council have managed to deflect their own personal accountability in support of what is looking more and more like a coordinated character assassination for Paul Moore and Rick Morig. With all these stories of developer influence creeping into Milton's government, talk of creating a development authority, and Mr. Morig's and Moore's opposition to it, maybe we know why. First, let's start with the ethics charge against Mr. Moore. I'm glad he's not here today, related to non-recusal from a White Columns cost-sharing project. A charge made despite my understanding he was green-lighted by the city manager to not recuse himself. City staff admitted right here where I'm standing on tape, go back and watch it, under questioning from Mr. Morig, that the White Columns board did not follow the city's process for a cost-sharing project. Later, the White Columns board, again, standing right here on tape, misrepresented a homeowner survey that they were asked to conduct until they were called out by Mr. Morig. Was the White Columns board held accountable? Was the city manager held accountable for what happened? No, White Columns got their cost sharing, but Mr. Moore was slapped with an ethics charge by these same White Columns people who are now after both Mr. Moore and Mr. Morig through their developer-backed Milton's Family First. What's motivating this group? Ethics, as they claim, payback, or development? Don't know. Did you all know that the city manager also lives in White Columns? Was his involvement ethical given the cost sharing that was granted? Do we see that in the paper? We do not. Next step is all the noise around trying to hang the hiring and firing of an election consultant around Mr. Morig's neck. So time was getting short to hire an election consultant. Rick Morg suggested a candidate to the hiring manager, city manager. The city manager vetted and then hired the consultant. She didn't work out, but so now this is all Mr. Morg's fault. As time had been getting late, how many consultants had the city manager interviewed? My understanding is 0. Mr. Morg teed somebody up for an interview, sounds reasonable. Whose job is it to fully vet the candidates? The city manager. Whose decision is it to recommend hiring a candidate? The city manager. So the hire didn't work out, the manager takes no accountability, and Mr. Morg takes the fall. Mr. Morg has just 1 vote out of 7 on city matters. I guess he's so intimidating that the city manager felt compelled to hire somebody he didn't want to. Doesn't pass the smell test. Next, trying to discredit Mr. Morg with this poll worker thing. It's been common practice in the past in Milton and Fulton elections for poll workers to actively support candidates. Did you know a Milton poll manager, donated to Doug Henney's campaign? Are we seeing that in the paper? No. Did you see developer Roberts also donates to Henney's campaign? Design Review Board Chairman and developer Charlie Roberts actually tried to kick off Mr. Henney's campaign at an official Milton meeting where Mr. Henney joined in the discussion. Mr. Roberts was forced to resign. Mr. Henney did not. Steps in Mrs. Kirkley to defend Henney after the debacle. She's now joined that bandwagon as it's late and is vocally attacking Morg on the poll worker thing. Henney, Kramer, Kirkley, all supported by a developer-backed Milton Families First, Henney backed by a developer, all endorsed by the mayor. A happy group bound together, supported by developers, with more and more in the way. Regarding the hullabaloo, I got a little time left, about the polling places, hanging out on Mr. Morg and more again. It was actually the city manager that nixed the original proposal by Morg, Moore, and others to have Highway 9 safety complex as a polling place because it was non-conducive to
Time's
proximity.
expired.
Okay, sorry.
How much longer you got, Mr. Pike?
What's that?
So how much longer you got?
Just 2 lines.
Let's go for
All
it.
right, thank you. Part of the reason was non-conducive with proximity to court, police, and fire operations. But then after the public uproar about having just 2 polling places, the same facility was then added as a 3rd polling place. And somehow now this proximity to city operations was a non-issue. Give me a break. Mr. Morg and Mr. Moore, again thrown under the bus, and the city manager who first nixed the location has no accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. Last speaker. Okay. Please call
Mia
next speaker.
Courtson to the podium.
Nia Corson, 550 Owens Farm Way, Milton, Georgia. Good evening, council and mayor. I was hoping my public comments in May were going to be my last public comments regarding our local elections. Unfortunately, circumstances that have transpired leave me no choice but to speak up against the insanity that has monopolized Milton's headlines. This upcoming election would have been my 5th election that I served our community and county as a poll worker in different capacities. In addition to these duties, I have volunteered and donated to several campaigns. Councilwoman Johnson, I donated to your election efforts. Same with Councilwoman Verhoff. I even waved signs for your campaign. I played an even more active role in Fulton County Board Commissioners Thorne's primary and general election. I knocked on hundreds of doors throughout her grueling 7-month campaign. The same can be said for Mallory Staples' U.S. congressional campaign. I am not looking for praise or applause for my contributions. Someone would simply characterize these efforts as a bright example of good civic servanthood. And yet, for some reason, the media and a particular blogger are trying to paint a very different picture of these civic efforts by besmirching involved citizens, as seen on his blog, The Mo-Rigged Election and Stop the Steal in Milton. Why is the media using this blog as a reliable source? Is it possible that they are trying to sow seeds of doubt regarding the integrity of this upcoming election? We can all agree that we've seen this hand played too many times in recent memory. In September of 2021, the Georgia Government Transparency and Campaign Finance Commission dismissed an ethics complaint against former Councilwoman Laura Bentley. They wrote, and I quote, "The commission has dealt with Mr. Becker before and has found his claims are often false or misleading." Let me repeat that. His claims are often false and misleading. Yet the media keeps using his blog as a source of information. Fool us once, shame on us. To let it happen again would be shame on you. According to Fulton County, anyone employed as an election worker is allowed to volunteer and/or work for a candidate's campaign up until the day of the election or until the first day of advance voting. Why then the alleged scandal of Councilman Morig's meeting with citizens who also were hired by Milton Election Superintendent Stephen Krokoff? Is this just another attempt to cast doubt on Milton elections? The question that I wish the Milton Herald and/or AJC would have asked Steve Krokoff is, why did you feel it necessary to surveil the meeting? He's quoted as saying, quote, "My professional training as a police officer is to act on initial concerns as quietly as possible, as one might not get a chance later," unquote. What crime did he think he may have been witnessing? Why did Morig's conducting a strategic campaign meeting mean anything other than that? Planning his campaign. The assumption that something nefarious or criminal was occurring is unfair and totally mind-boggling. Krokoff stated that the two citizens who were also poll workers are known to be upstanding, civic-minded citizens. The superintendent's actions seem excessive and, quite frankly, a little bit creepy. Do they infringe upon First Amendment rights, the right to assemble, or even intimidation of campaign volunteers or poll workers? Questions that I wish the media would raise and discuss. As I mentioned before, I have worked as an election clerk and also volunteered on a myriad of campaigns. Never once was my integrity questioned, nor should it have been. It is my right as a citizen to participate in our open and democratic election process. Unfortunately, the hard work of the two city councilmen, city staff, and city citizens have been under attack since April of 2023. First, the accusations of disenfranchising the voters in District 3, and now the scandal of citizen volunteers dedicating their time to re-elect a councilman. I look forward to hearing the results of the police probe into Councilman Morig's email hack investigation. Maybe at that time, the truth will be told and the culprits behind this crime will be properly punished. In the meantime, I look forward to seeing Milton break away from Fulton County and running a free, fair, transparent election with paper ballots. Maybe these paper ballots are the root cause for concern for running their own city elections. Finally, I'd like to set the record straight regarding a conversation I had with two candidates running for city council seats. I met both of these gentlemen at my neighborhood's meet and greet. I do want to go on record and state that the two polling locations, an east and west location that were initially recommended by the feasibility committee, were to be located at the public safety complex located in District 3 and Milton City Hall. It was the city manager and election superintendent, Steve Krokoff, who recommended to remove the District 3 location and move it elsewhere due to parking limitations. Have those limitations magically disappeared since they've reinstated that location?
Ms. Corson, how much time do you have left?
I have one more sentence.
Okay, let's
It
go.
was not the actions of the committee or Councilman Moore and Morig, which seems to be the premise of this misunderstanding. I appreciate your time, patience, and understanding.
Thank you.
Final.
Speaker? Okay. Ms. Cawley?
Good evening. My name is Lisa Cawley. I live at 14680 Freemanville Road. I would like to bring attention to an important matter regarding the conduct of our city manager, who also happens to be the election superintendent. According to Sue Joe, the Fulton County attorney, There is no law prohibiting poll workers or poll officers from participating in or supporting a candidate outside of their role as a poll worker. In light of this, I question the justification of our city manager, who as the election superintendent, to undertake surveillance of the neighborhood and home of 2 citizens and a candidate, a current incumbent. Is there a valid reason for him to gain entrance to a neighborhood using his credentials for the purpose of surveillance? These actions should raise serious concerns among all elected officials and citizens alike. Imagine if the Fulton County Election Superintendent were to engage in the exact same behavior. What consequences would there be? Would it be brushed under the rug and downplayed? I don't believe so. Moreover, the city manager, election superintendent, has stated in his emails to Councilman Morig that there is nothing wrong with poll workers engaging with candidates. However, even after his surveillance, he continues to question whether Councilman Morig had indeed attended a meeting, despite already having the answer through his own actions. Why is that? It is time for our community to carefully examine the individuals we have elected to the city council and those who refuse to address the actions and motives of the city manager, election superintendent. We should focus on determining who accessed Councilman Morig's government email and impersonated him, rather than wrongly accusing him of accidentally writing the email or having an inappropriate meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment period.
We'll close public comment. We'll move on to consent agenda. Will City Clerk please sound the items?
Mayor, the first item is approval of the September 18th, 2023 regular city council meeting minutes. Agenda item number 23257. B is approval of a construction services agreement with LTRC-0OPS Inc., doing business as LTRC Tree Specialist for the pruning of 16 oaks along Deerfield Parkway and Webb Road at Freedom Park. Agenda item number 23258. C is approval of a construction services agreement between the City of Milton and Horse and Plow Landscape and Construction, LLC, to relocate the carport shed from the Bethel Community Center to Fire Station 43. Agenda item number 23259. D is approval of a software subscription agreement between the City of Milton and Virtual Academy, a division of Savant Learning Systems, Inc., for training software. Agenda item number 23260. E is approval of subdivision plats and revisions. The first minor plat is Ansley Park, Thompson Road, and Champions Club Drive, land lot 538, District 2, Section 2. And the purpose of this plat is to combine the 4 previously subdivided lots into one larger parcel, a total of 12.244 acres. Minor plat number 2 is Molly Latham and Thomas Pascal at 16685 Hopewell Road, land lot 183 and 184, District 2, Section 2. The purpose of this plat is to combine 4 parcels of land located in the city of Milton into one legal lot of record, known as Lot 1, to create ingress and utility easement for access to Lot 2, located in Cherokee County, a total of 1.809 acres. Development 3, excuse me, Charles A. Wright Jr., Julia Denise Wright, Charles A. Wright III, Carl Ryder Wright, and Sarah Elizabeth Wright at 14328 Phillips Circle, land lot 742 and 771, District 2, Section 2, a minor plat to reconfigure existing land boundaries and locate visible above-ground improvements. 8.574 is the total acres with a density of 0.23 lots per acre. The final minor plat is Bethany Bend Estates at 2335 Bethany Bend, land lot 893, District 2, Section 2. This plat is to subdivide the parcel into 3 lots ranging in size from 1.338 acres to 1.522 acres, a total of 4.290 acres and a density of 0.69 lots per acre. It is agenda item number 23260. Mayor?
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Cookerly and a second from Councilmember Johnson to approve the consent agenda as read. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, so we'll move on to reports and presentations. Will the city clerk please stay on the first item?
The first item is the proclamation supporting Fire Prevention Week. Mayor Jameson.
Thank you. See, we have the full team in the back for this proclamation. We have a wonderful fire department, and I know we've had some structure fires over the last few weeks, and they've saved those. And a lot of it was due to a lot of the fire prevention that communication that we give out to our citizens. Y'all do a wonderful job. So this proclamation is for y'all and for all the citizens for Fire Prevention Week in Milton. So I'm going to read this, and then we'll have all y'all come up and take a picture. So this proclamation is recognizing October 8th to the 14th as Fire Prevention Week in Milton. Whereas fires can significantly damage property and imperil lives, making it critical to do everything we can to prevent them. And whereas the Milton Fire and Rescue Department dedicates extensive, thoughtful efforts through its Community Risk Reduction Division to educate and engage the public on preventing fires. And whereas such messages are relevant always, though especially during the second week of October, which is National Fire Prevention Week. And whereas the 2023 theme is Cooking Safety Starts With You, highlighting real threats of dangerous fires that start in the kitchen or on the grill. And whereas cooking is the leading cause of home fires in the United States, with firefighters responding to about 166,400 such fires annually. And whereas, actually, there might have been a comma missing. That might have been 1,664,000. I don't know.
It's
A lot of
lower.
fires.
It's lower.
Whereas 2 out of every 5 home fires start in the kitchen, with about 31% of these from unattended cooking. And whereas in addition to attending the stove, people can take simple steps such as having a lid nearby, turning pot handles toward the back, having a kid-free zone, and setting a timer to help prevent fires. And whereas these measures can be part of a broader effort, like having working fire alarms and a home fire escape plan to help keep your family safe. Now, therefore, we, the mayor and the city council and the city of Milton, proclaim October 8th to the 14th, 2023 to be Fire Prevention Week in Milton. And we encourage people to be mindful and take action to prevent fires as best as they can. This is given under my hand and seal of the city of Milton, Georgia on the second day of October of 2023. All down?
No. Here.
Fire with that thing.
So you shift this way?
And you'll just kind of line up over here. You can vote. Probably set line up.
You can hold it. Yeah, let's go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
What does the banner say?
How you doing?
I haven't seen it.
It says something about cooking.
Does it, it says eat out.
Can't get in trouble if you just call it in.
Is it your favorite restaurant?
Well, actually, yeah.
Let's move down a little bit so we're more centered.
Council, can you just shift?
There we go.
Council shift a little bit.
We're trying. I'm having
Go
trouble.
there.
We're edging our way over.
Yeah, I want the center.
Yeah. Look up and 2 cameras. 3, 2, 1. Stay there 1 second. Advance camera. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
I'm gonna see if I can make a quick little promo for this.
Thank you.
Peyton.
Okay.
Yeah. You read it. Okay, if I mention.
Oh, yeah. Councilmember Cookerly.
Thank you. On Touch a Truck Day, back at Stone Creek Church about a month or so ago, I stumbled upon, well, it was hard to miss the fire corps because there was so much activity there. But I had forgotten about Community Connect, which is a wonderful program that you can access through our website. And Mr. Patello is going to put it in more places, a tab in more places so that you can go. And you enter information about your home, the number of occupants, the number of pets, what the pets look like, et cetera. Just basic information, nothing really private. It is a secure site, but it gives the fire department all kinds of information so that if they show up, they know how many dogs you have, if you have a cat that lives inside or outside, the goldfish, et cetera. So I did it. It was easy. It gives them a lot of information. It's a great safeguard for yourself and your families. And I think it's a wonderful thing to do. I'd love to track over the next year how many people sign up so that we can mention it quite a bit. So thank you. Little community service PSA.
Thank you, Councilmember Cookerly. Will you please call the next item?
The next item is a proclamation recognizing October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Mayor
Thank you.
Jameson?
Appreciate it. So we have our wonderful police department in the back, and after I read this proclamation, I'm going to ask Chief Austin to come up and say a few words, if you don't mind. This is a proclamation recognizing October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas domestic violence is defined as a pattern of abusive behavior in any relationship used by a person to gain or maintain power and control over an intimate partner. And whereas people of all ages, from children through seniors, can be domestic violence victims in one way or another. And whereas family and domestic violence impacts about 10 million people in the United States annually, though the numbers are believed to be widely underreported for various reasons. And whereas domestic violence can take many forms, including physical, emotional, psychological, and technological abuse. And whereas about 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men report having experienced severe physical violence from an intimate partner in their lifetime, according to the CDC. And whereas National Domestic Violence Awareness Month is an opportunity to raise awareness about this too common issue, as well as sharing vital resources for people to get the support and help they need. And whereas victims can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 800-799-SAFE or go to www.thehotline.org to get help at any time. And whereas the City of Milton wholeheartedly supports domestic violence victims, as well as what can be done to prevent their suffering and support them. Now, therefore, we, the mayor and the city council of the city of Milton, proclaim October to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Milton. We share our support and resources for domestic violence victims to get the help that they need. This is given under my hand and seal of the city of Milton, Georgia, on the second day of October of 2023. And I will ask Chief to come up, and then we'll hand that out to him.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Mayor, you brought up some interesting and very disturbing statistics. According to the National Coalition on Domestic Violence, on average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States. In 1 year, this equates to more than 10 million women and men. Crimes associated with domestic violence are some of the most troubling. Not only does this crime involve physical and psychological abuse, but unlike many other crimes, it's often ongoing and not easily escapable or detectable. It's also not easily stopped. Domestic violence knows no socioeconomic, geographic, or cultural boundaries, and it is certainly and unfortunately a problem in our community. Hardly a day goes by without our officers responding to a domestic violence situation. That is why, in both my role as Milton's police chief and as chair of the Victim Services Committee of the International Association of Chiefs of Police, I wanted to bring awareness to this crime to our community, because awareness leads to understanding, and understanding leads to positive change. I'm grateful for these partner organizations that are with us this evening. We have the Partnership Against Domestic Violence and the Cherokee Family Violence Center with us here. And for you, Mayor, and our council, in support of bringing community awareness so that we can help reduce victimization and help bring light to our community's resolve to interrupt the cycle of domestic violence in Milton. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Do you want to go ahead and stand up and get ready for the picture?
Hello.
How you doing?
Mayor, give them over there.
Good to see you.
Got to double up in the front.
So, I've been using
Oh, wow.
I know.
I don't think I'm gonna do that.
did. I saw it. And then he went on his tippy toes a little bit.
I have four cameras here.
Squeeze.
Get tight. Okay. Everyone, 3, 2, 1. And I was asked to take a few extra photos, so bear with me. Oh, I might have to borrow your someone's. Someone's yours? Sorry. Okay. Your passcode.
Take your time. There's no charge.
No. More. Oops, my hand. Good, thank you.
Thanks.
You should take the this is I'll get you a picture.
Okay, will the city clerk please sound the next item?
Mayor, that next item is the naming of the city's 106-acre green space on Lackey Road.
You missed
Our-
one.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's a proclamation recognizing October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Mayor Jomason?
Thank you. I will turn this over to Councilmember Morg, who annually does this for us. He usually does it with ex-Councilmember Joe Longoria, who's his birthday today. Councilmember Morg?
Thanks. It's my honor to read this proclamation recognizing October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in Milton. Whereas approximately 1 in 8 American women will be diagnosed with breast cancer during their lifetime, with some 288,000 new invasive breast cancer diagnoses last year alone. And whereas early detection can be critical to a person's survival, which is why experts recommend that people know their family history, get annual mammograms starting at age 40, and know the warning signs. And whereas, thanks in part to medical advances, more than 4 million Americans with a history of invasive breast cancer are still living today. And whereas there are sadly others who do not survive the second most common cancer among women, with about 44,000 perishing each year. And whereas National Breast Cancer Awareness Month has been every October since 1985, an opportunity to promote screening, prevention, and recognition of the many people suffering through the disease. And whereas October 13th is Metastatic Breast Cancer Awareness Day for the roughly 30% of early stage breast cancers that spread to different parts of the body. And whereas effective treatment and productive research can both be life-saving when it comes to breast cancer and other such diseases. And whereas the city of Milton stands strong with those battling breast cancer and encourages all to take steps to protect themselves and others. Now, therefore, we, the mayor and city council of the city of Milton, recognize October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in Milton, urging people to be educated and proactive while offering our wholehearted support to those diagnosed. This is given under the mayor's hand and seal of the city of Milton, Georgia, on the second day of October, 2023. I just want to say a couple of comments. I've shared this before, but I lost my paternal grandmother to breast cancer, and it was a difficult death to watch her go through. And then in 2003, when I had young children, my wife and I had young children, my wife Donna was diagnosed with breast cancer. She underwent surgery, she had chemo and radiation, and then follow up with medication. And I'm glad to say that she is here with us today. She is a survivor. I just appreciate this proclamation and the many improvements that we've actually seen. And when we do the recognition, if there are any other women here that or men who have had and been impacted by breast cancer in your family, if you'd come forward for the proclamation, we appreciate that too. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Morg.
We all want to go down?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Glad you can Okay, I can use a fancy. I'm going to do 2 cameras here. Ready? 3, 2. Okay, stay there 1 second. Great, perfect. Thank you.
You can take it. Gladly.
Okay, will the city clerk please say on the next item?
Mayor, item D, naming of the city's 106-acre green space on Lackey Road. Our communications director, Mr. Greg Botello.
Hello there. Happy Monday. Did it go disappear? There it goes. This is we're back at naming our green spaces and parks, and I'm kind of excited. This was a really big moment when we not only purchased this property, also when we opened it, and now we could possibly settle on a name for it today. So I want to just kind of go over what I've done for our previous things and this is in partnership with my friend Tom McElveen, our Parks and Rec Director. The whole point is that to give a certain city space, in this case, the 106-acre Milton green space off Lackey Road, named that resonates with visitors and our community, and we're reflecting the city's values and identity. So we've already had a few steps in this process. So we've had a process where we've had citizens and stakeholders input. I'll go through that later. Build energy, excitement, and value for this property. I think anyone who's been there knows what a wonderful place it is. We've shared with you all, and I've gotten some really good feedback on some naming options beyond that. And today, hopefully we can at least offer a good direction in terms of what we could name this facility. And you can see there's lots of pretty pictures that go with this presentation, so I hope you'll enjoy that. So this is a unique property because I want to give a little history of here. It's a two-parter. This is in Milton's Sweet Apple section. So it actually, some of the land, I think, borders the city of Roswell. Is that correct? Or close enough? Yes, close enough. Dr. Wolf, Bernard Wolf, I'm not sure if it's purchased in 1947. The Bull family purchased 160 acres from, according to feuding moonshiners. So it's the progress there that they're no longer on that property. And there was a lot of give and take in terms of property. Sometimes the acreage grew and sometimes it shrunk, that sort of thing. The family lived in Atlanta and they visited. They had a tenant. The last was a Cherokee Indian who stayed rent-free and tended to the farm, which included horses and a house on that property, in addition to trails that they cultivated. As a way of background, not on this property, but very close by, a legendary AGC columnist and author, Celestine Sibley, purchased a 1832 schoolhouse that she transformed to a cabin, and it actually became the subject of at least one of her books, and she became famous in her own right around here. And until Milton's founding in 2006, this was in unincorporated Fulton County, not far from Cherokee. So more recent history, this is kind of in our wheelhouse when the city existed. So in 2012, around then, the Wolves began to explore selling at least part of the property, and they expressed the preference that become some sort of park because they had spent years cultivating these trails that they were hoping that people can enjoy the nature there. So in December 2018, the Wolves, the city paid the Wolves $3.71 million from the green space bond for this property for 106 acres of it. So, and in the time since, Tom and his team began work on, and also our public works added the parking lot. Tom and his team added, helped cleaned out the trails, and it opened to the public a 1.5-mile loop, which kind of goes around a lake and through meanders, through creeks and things like that in November 2021. So the public feedback process, as you know, we kind of opened this up through Facebook, Instagram, email, basically asking people to give a little background on these things and some pictures to try to get people we had a video to get people to kind of share what they think we should name these things. And as always, there's some of the names that kind of stuck out. You can kind of see this here. There was over 100 names, 109. Not as much of a range as some of the other ones, but certainly always very thoughtful ideas. And again, I like that these are kind of our creative citizens. If if you want to call it Hillendale Hiking Park, Nature's Nirvana. There's a lot of there's a lot of kind of fun names that play off the wolf name, things like that. So again, kudos to our citizens for offering these ideas, and they always actually do it in a very good spirit, and we appreciate that. So we also have stakeholders here, and I mentioned a few of these. Milton Historical Society, they had suggested a few names. One is the Little River, just as a note. The Little River doesn't run through this, but the creeks run into it. Sweet Apple Park was another idea. Just a note, it might confuse some GPS because there's a Sweet Apple Park about 2 miles away. And the other is Lakapani, which I'm going to go into that more detail. The Milton Green Space Advisory Committee and both Bernard and Betty Ann Wolf both recommend Lakapani or some variation of Lakapani in the name. There's a story to that, and you're like, what does Lakapani mean? So just as there's we like all these parks and all our facilities have a little story behind them. So the story for this was that Dr. Wolf, he served in World War II, and he helped save the life of a young girl who was suffering. I'm not exactly sure, but and then so that young girl's parents came to visit this property in 1859, and they came from India, so they kind of know that culture. And they suggested after seeing, especially after you go through a heavy rain or something like that, you'll see creeks running through here, there, and everywhere. So they suggested combining two Hindi words for all the lakes and creeks called Lak Pani. So Lak means 100,000. I'm not sure if there's exactly 100,000 creeks, but you get the gist. And Pani means water. So they kind of put that together, and then ever since 1959, the Wolves called the property Lakapani. So that leads to this next step, in which is I'm going to suggest, and Tom and I talked about this talk about what the first name for this property should be, and the second name. The second name is relevant because this could be in terms of this is our first full-on green space. We have Milton City Park and Preserve, which is a little bit of both. So whether we want to if you want to set a precedent that green spaces can be called parks or preserves or whatever else. But before we get into that, we had several suggestions. One was Lakapani. Can I just ask for a show of hands? This is not an official vote. We're just getting direction. Is there support for people having Lakapani as a first name?
Yeah.
Yeah. No one's against it. Okay. So we have one suggestion for Councilmember Moore to have a Wolf Lakapani Preserve, which is a preference to have it. Or maybe Councilmember Moore, if he wants to explain if he wants the wolf name in there or if he's fine with it without the wolf, since he's somewhere.
Greg, just to take a moment and comment on that.
Sure.
Having worked with the Wolf family when we struck the relationship with them to be able to acquire the land, the Wolf family, as you noted in your presentation earlier, has been a long-standing, multi-generational occupant of the property. I think the fact that there's a chance to honor the Wolf family as well as to incorporate some of the family history with Dr. Wolf and the saving of the young girl, that then brought the name Lakapani, where the family called the property Lakapani. I just think that makes all the sense in the world to blend the two. And of course, I prefer the word preserve because I think it is just that. It's not necessarily a park for active. It's not an active use park. It is green space, but we're preserving this look and feel of a multi-generational family with a something unique and special and very different, where you can really escape the hustle and bustle when you're on this property.
So thank you, Councilmember Moore.
Greg, just a quick question. Are you wanting us to because I kind of have some suggestions for y'all to maybe come back with us? Is that what you're?
Well, we can do different ways.
Okay.
We can either have suggestions to come back. We can have narrow it down for a public online vote. That's what we did for Milton City Park and Preserve. So we basically can take the direction from councils as you see fit.
Okay.
So the idea that at some point it's a matter of if there's more. There's only so much information we can provide. So it's a matter of deciding there.
Councilmember Moore?
Yeah, I like the idea. I guess the Wolf family is there for a long time. They own the property. Lakapani, I think we definitely want to actually honor what they've called it for years. I mean, there is history there. And preserve, we've actually had a little bit if you look at Milton City Park and Preserve, we've got a park, an active park, but we've got a preserve where the hiking trails are. I had walked this a number of years back before we acquired the property with Bernard and his wife. And he told the stories about the moonshiners, even when they were little kids, that they threw rocks at some of the stills and the people started to come after them with guns. So Bernard said they didn't do that after the first time. So I guess I'm good with, I think Wolf Lakapani Preserve, I'm okay with that also. I don't know where everybody else stands.
And I think if we go down the Lakapani route, because
Yep.
I remember sitting at the planning commission when Bernard would come up and Lakapani.
Right.
We probably need to educate the community
Yes.
what Lakapani is, because, I could see some comments going. But like I was just thinking, Lakapani at Wolf Preserve, something that flows pretty good.
Well, then there's also opportunities for the lake there too.
Right.
Because that's kind of the signature thing. So you could have Lakapani Preserve, you could have Wolf Lake, something like
Oh,
that.
that's a good idea. That's a great idea, actually.
Because in that way you can, I'm not,
So
I'm not,
that's actually-
but the idea that's because it might be just so it's less of a mouthful. But that there's certainly, or it's a loop trail too. I mean, so I could talk to Tom.
So
Wolf Lake.
Lakapani is the water, so maybe it would be Lakapani Lake.
It could be.
and Wolf
Preserve.
Park or Wolf Preserve. I don't do very well. I'm gonna let other people know. I keep it simple.
Lakapani Preserve and Wolf Lake.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that.
I think there's still an L in Wolf. So,
Yeah.
and I think I will say, the Wolf family, they wanted, they did not ask for their name.
They
They
wanted
specifically,
Lakapani.
they didn't say, they wanted Lakapani something or other.
Right.
So, Tom, does that make sense?
But if you know the wolves, they're very humble, and I think it would be up to us to pull them out of their shell for that and do the honor that the family deserves with including Wolf in some way in the name.
So I think that if you have Lakapani Preserve and you have Wolf Lake, I'm sure we could get some sort of.
Good.
Why don't y'all, because I'm sure we'll have a formal vote on it.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, no,
assuming.
we don't have, for all these, we don't have a formal vote. I just
Okay.
have
Direction.
direction.
We kind of know our direction. Are y'all
Yes,
good
so
with
I think
the
that's
direction?
yeah.
I think everybody's on the same.
I think
page.
and then to whatever extent, I think that helps us going forward too for other green spaces / preserves. So I'm fine with, Tom, you good? Okay.
So we're good with Lakapani Preserve with Wolf Lake.
Yeah, and their house their former house overlooks Wolf Lake. I'm calling it that. So
Y'all good with that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. There are no first presentation items. We'll move on to public hearing. Will the city clerk please sound the first item?
The first item is consideration of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to Elizabeth United LLC, doing business as Bobby G's at 12990 Georgia 9 North, number 114 in Milton. It's agenda item number 23262. Our finance director, Ms. Karen Ellis.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have 3 alcoholic beverage licenses for your review this evening for the October 2nd meeting. The first is Elizabeth United LLC, doing business as Bobby G's. This is located at 12990 Georgia Highway 9 and Suite 114. This is in the Aldi's Shopping Plaza. They are looking for consumption on premises, wine, malt beverage, and distilled spirits, on-premise Sunday sales, and this was advertised in the Milton Herald on September 21st and 28th of 2023. Here is a map of where it's located within the plaza with all the other alcohol license holders. This will remain a full-service restaurant. It does meet the requirements of at least 40% of the gross square footage for restaurant use. It is an eating establishment and does meet the 50% of its total annual gross food and beverage sales from the sale of prepared food and meals requirement. Gross square footage came in at 4,622 square feet, of which 1,859 square feet would be used for the seating area. If you have any questions on that, I'll be glad to answer them.
Okay. Do we have any public comment?
We do not, sir.
Okay, I'll close public comment. Is there any council discussion?
Peyton, I have a quick question. Please, Why is this one back before us? Is it because it's changed hands?
Yes,
Because
it's a new
been
owner.
Restaurant.
Yes, correct. New owner.
Ah, terrific. Thanks for confirming.
Any other council questions or discussion? Okay, we'll open it for a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, we approve agenda item number 23-262.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Jacobus and a second from Councilmember Morg to approve agenda item number 23-262. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Will the city clerk please say on the next item?
B is consideration of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to Lemaire Seafood Cuisine LLC at 3100 Heritage Walk, Suite 102 in Milton. Agenda item number 23-263. Ms. Ellis?
Good evening. This is for Lemaire Seafood Cuisine LLC. This is at 3100 Heritage Walk, Suite 102, just around the corner near the Starbucks and the Aberdeen Steakhouse. They are requesting consumption on premises of wine, malt beverage, and distilled spirits, also resident caterer, and on-premise Sunday sales. And this also was advertised in the Milton Herald on September 21st and 28th of 2023. Again, here's a map showing where it's located within the Crabapple area. This will be a full-service restaurant. Seating meets the 40% gross square footage requirements, came in at 2,862 square feet, of which the seating area is 1,165 square feet, meeting the 40% requirement. And if you have any questions regarding this item, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions? Okay, any public comment?
There are none.
Okay, we'll close the public comment and we'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion, we approve agenda item number 23-263.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilor Jacobus and a second from Councilor Verhoff to approve agenda item number 23-263. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, will the city clerk please say on the next item?
A consideration of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to Nile Beam LLC, doing business as Persis Barani Indian Grill at 631 North Main Street, Suite 100 in Milton. Agenda item number 23-264. Ms. Karen Ellis.
The final license for review this evening is with Nal Beam LLC, doing business as Persis Biryani Indian Grill. They are located at 631 North Main Street, Suite 100 in the Watercrest Village Plaza. They're requesting consumption on premises for wine, malt beverage, and distilled spirits, also on-premise Sunday sales. And this as well was advertised in the Milton Herald on September 21st and the 28th of 2023. Here is where it is located in the Watercrest Village Plaza. And this also is a new owner, full-service restaurant. Restaurant seating meets the 40% gross square footage requirements, came in at 3,587.9 square feet, of which 1,852.45 square feet meets the 52%, exceeding the 40% gross square footage. And if you have any questions on that one, I'll be glad to answer it as well.
Do you have any public comment?
We do not, sir.
Okay, we'll close public comment. Any council discussion or questions? Okay, open it for a motion.
Mayor, make a move that we approve agenda item number 23-264.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilor Jacobus and a second from Councilor Cookerly to approve agenda item number 23-264. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trifecta.
That's right. There are no zoning agenda or unfinished business items. We'll move on to new business. Will the city clerk please say on the item?
Mayor, that item is consideration of a conflict waiver between the City of Milton, the City of Alpharetta, and Gerard and Davis LLP for CAD Records Intergovernmental Agreement for the provision of computer-aided dispatch and police records management systems. Agenda item number 23-265. Our city attorney, Mr. Ken Gerard.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is a typical conflict waiver that I've brought to you all before whenever my law firm is on both sides of an agreement particularly. I bring this to you out of an abundance of caution. Obviously, I'm wanting to make sure to protect myself, and obviously my highest ideal is the city of Milton. If there was ever a situation where I believe that I could not be on both sides of an IGA like this because we weren't in a common trajectory, I would let you know. Otherwise, respectfully, this is more perfunctory. This is something that's a win-win for both.
Thank you. Any questions for Kim? Okay, any public comment?
There are none, sir.
Okay, we'll close public comment and we'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve agenda item number 23-265.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Morgan, a second from Councilmember Jacobus to approve agenda item number 23-265. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Will the city clerk please say on the next item?
Mayor, the next item is consideration of a resolution of the adoption of the capital improvements element 2023 annual update. It's an agenda item number 23266. Ms. Jackie Lim.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So tonight I'm presenting the last step in the capital improvement elements, CIE annual update audit process. So the CIE annual update is an annual report of any development impact fees collected, encumbered, and used during fiscal year 2022. This report is prepared based on the state's rules and regulations pertaining to impact fees. The documents contains primarily a financial report and an updated list of the community work program. Here is the process and timeline. If you remember, our consultant Ross Bloss and Associate presented the CIE annual update during the work session in August 14th. And then the City Council approved a resolution to transmit the draft for regional and state review, and that's in August 21st. And there is a ARC and DCA review and comment period. However, in September 11, we received a letter approving our draft CIE annual update. So tonight we're here to formally adopt the CIE annual update. And when that's adopted, we will submit a copy to DCA and ARC, which is basically to issue an extension for Milton's as qualified local government status. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any public comment?
There are none, sir.
Any questions? Okay, we'll open it for a motion.
Mayor, make a motion, we approve agenda item number 23-266.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Jacobus and a second from Councilmember Johnson to approve agenda item number 23-266. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, will the city clerk please say on the next item?
C is consideration of a resolution to approve the City of Milton waste haulers for the 2023-2024 service year. Agenda item number 23267. Ms. Emily Groth.
All right, good evening, Mayor and members of council. Give me 1 second to get this pulled up. So tonight I'm here to discuss a resolution to approve the city's waste haulers for the 2023-2024 service year. This resolution just provides some administrative oversight and year-over-year maintenance for our ongoing processes and policies. We'll first start with a review of Chapter 46, the Solid Waste Ordinance. Next, we'll discuss some updates on our current Milton services, including the upcoming Recycling and Solid Waste Management Plan. And we'll review the list of proposed haulers and highlight 3 changes from the previous year. And it's important to note that this resolution will provide continued service through June 30, 2024, as outlined in the agreement terms in Chapter 46. Within the next 9 months, we'll review these services through an updated Recycling and Solid Waste Management Plan and with the help of the Sustainability Advisory Committee. And tonight, we're looking for consideration of the resolution. So Chapter 46 can be broken down into 2 main sections: collection services and agreement terms, both of which are required for these approved haulers. Haulers must provide residential recycling and offer yard waste collections, and they must also offer commercial recycling if they service businesses. These operation times must be between 7:30 a.m. and 7:30 p.m. This agreement is a 1-year term with annual renewal documents that are submitted, like certificates of insurance and quarterly infrastructure maintenance fee payments. And as noted in the beginning, this would end on June 30, 2024, since the ordinance just identifies that this time frame is mid-year. And lastly, The haulers must submit a notarized affidavit acknowledging and adhering to Chapter 46. So in Milton, we have some upcoming initiatives that will further strengthen one of the more important services to any community. In speaking with both residents and waste haulers, this is a small list of growing observations, both in Milton and in the industry. Fees are increasing with no increase in services. We've seen these sentiments continued from last year's solid waste survey. The services are depending more on location, specific waste haulers, and certain materials like horse waste, for example. And various residential communities are noting the use of multiple haulers throughout the neighborhood every day. And within the industry, yard waste collection is moving away from those traditional curbside brown bags to the need for residents to purchase another plastic can due to more advanced trucks with automated side arms that lift the debris into the truck without staff. So with the help of the Sustainability Advisory Committee and an updated recycling and solid waste management plan, we'd be better positioned to speak to some of these points tonight. So this is a list of the proposed approved haulers in Milton, some residential, some commercial, and some service both. The main changes are the addition of Sea Green services and the addition of legacy disposal services and the voluntary removal of M&M waste. And tonight, we're looking for consideration of the resolution, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
All right. Any questions for Emily?
Yeah, excuse me. I noticed that waste management isn't on here. That just seems a little unusual for as large as they are. Is there a particular reason why they're not on?
They are hidden down at the bottom. They service both residential and commercial.
I missed that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem.
Any other questions? Nope. Do we have any public comment?
We do not, sir.
Okay. We'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve agenda item number 23-267.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilor Morgan, a second from Councilor Verhoff to approve agenda item number 23-267. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, will the city clerk please say on the next item?
D is consideration of a final plat. The final plat is Mayfair Estates Phase 2 at Birmingham Highway, Land Lot 268 and 269, District 2, Section 2. This final plat is for 16 single-family lots with a total of 27 acres with 0.59 density lots per acre. It's agenda item number 23-268. Our land development manager is Tracy Wilds.
Good evening. The final plat tonight should look familiar. Mayfair Estates has two phases, and Phase 1 was before you earlier this year, primarily because people purchased more than one lot in the development. So a plat revision was required to show the changes in the property lines and the lot sizes increase. Tonight's final plat is for Phase 2. The location map on the screen reminds us that Mayfair Estates is located in the northern part of the city on Birmingham Highway, north of the new roundabout at 7 acres in the Baby Publix. Phase 2 is in the rear of the property in the red section. The site plan for the development shows that there are 16 single-family lots in Phase 2 across 27 acres, and a separate independent lot is dedicated for stormwater retention. A representative of the development is here tonight, and he and/or I will be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions for staff? No? Any public comment?
There are none.
Okay, we'll close public comment and we'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we approve agenda item number 23-268.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilor Cookerly and a second from Councilor Jacobus to approve agenda item number 23-268. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, that's our last item on that, right? Okay.
Correct.
So we'll move on to council reports. I don't have anything to report on. Does council? Nope. Okay. So we will now adjourn into executive session to discuss personnel, land acquisition, and potential litigation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Councilor Morgan, a second from Councilor Johnson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Motion to reconvene.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
See y'all next week.
Sounds good.
We do